Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon. Can I have everyone's attention, please? Just want to make a few comments on how this open house is going to be delivered. It is specifically an open house style. We have some boards here with some information. We will not be giving a formal invitation. That's been done on Sunday from the board of directors, and that's what they chose to do. What we wanted to do is put some of the information out, and all the councilors here. It's an informal discussion. We want to hear from you. We want to, so that you can ask the questions to anybody, any one of us. We will have an opportunity to, if anybody wants to speak, wants to give their opinion, have a presentation, I ask that you put your name down on the board over here, and we will get to it probably around the 3 o'clock time, so that you can kind of mingle, go around, and the objective here this evening, or today, is certainly to get your input. We're here to listen. We're not here to debate. We're here to listen so that we can make the best informed decision possible down the road, which is most likely will be December 10th. At least that's our plan. So again, by all means, please mingle around, please go around. Again, put your name on the board. If you want to come up here and say a few words, have a presentation, whatever it is, we will put it in the public record. We have a record, we have someone's going to record. There's sheets along the tables. If you want to make your comments, put them on writing, so in order that they do make it to the public record. And then we'll disseminate all that information as a group and make a future decision. That's how this thing is, we envision this to work. So have yourself a good evening, or a good day. I'm really, really pleased that we have a full house, and hopefully we get everyone's input and their thoughts. And the bottom line, I suppose, is if you were in our shoes, what would you do? And that's what we're looking for. What would you do? So, thank you. Yeah, sorry, if you have sheets, just hand them to Alice on the way in, or she's the lady that's sitting at the front desk. And so on your way out, just hand it to her, and she'll make sure that it gets posted and it becomes part of our public record. Thank you. Can I have everyone's attention again, please? So some people that are prepared to make a statement or their feelings, what we would like you to do, if that's what you want to do, put your name up on the board here, and we'll go through that. Please keep it. We would like to keep it. Don't go on and on and on. Again, it's information, your information. It's not a debate. And we do have, what we'll do is we'll capture your questions, your thoughts on the board so that it can be part of the public record. We'll also videotaping so that we're certainly want to have it on the public record. So, Mr. Gauthier, I believe you would like to say a few words.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. Good afternoon. My name is Gaston Gauthier. I'm from Cochrane here. I've lived in Cochrane since 1954. And I retired from MJ LaBelle Company Limited in 2005. After that, I joined the board at the Polar Bear Habitat. It was a simple board made of local people who tried to bring the habitat and the village at that time on a level that would be known. We had our hardships because the board had no money. The town had no money to give us to go forward with projects. So all we had was meetings and meetings after meeting, and we would bring things to the town, and they had no money. So in approximately 2010, the town applied for a grant to the government, and the grant was to build a snowmobile museum. And in 2011, or in 2011 approximately, the museum was built. I was the liaison officer at that time between the contractor and the town for that summer. And the snowmobile museum, which was in the village at that time, moved to the front, attached to the viewing room there, as you enter. Well, I think the museum, the snowmobile museum, we rode on the coattail of the polar bears, and I think we put something pretty good together there. And that is something that will also disappear more than likely when they decide to close the bears. The snowmobiling industry has been an industry very important for Northern Ontario. It helped in the development of the North, the opening up of the North, and we try to just reproduce that there. And I think the group that worked at it did a very good job, and it's something that's going to be lost also with the polar bear habitat if it closes. And that would be, like Fern Gravel says, 2 spokes in the wheel broken. So you're not going to miss very many other spokes after that once the wheel starts to collapse. And that's my piece on this. Thank you very much for listening.
Can I have everybody's attention, please? I can't believe that there aren't more people getting up, voicing their opinion on such an important matter. And I can't believe our mayor and council even thinking about regressing or putting this thing down. We gotta go ahead. This thing's been built for a long time. And it's important that Cochrane keeps it, because for the future, it's a good way to bring in a lot of people and a lot of investment in this town. You may not realize it right now, but it isn't always about money. I've been in business for 45 years, and I didn't survive worrying about my next dollar. I spent my money buying new equipment and going forward, and it paid off. What we need is somebody to take a charge and to bring this thing to a head. I can't believe there's many intelligent people here, business people, who got to get up and speak for this. We got to learn how to raise money. If the town doesn't want to contribute to our future, you got to remember, the council's only here for 4 years. We got to go ahead. One of my ideas, We can't think like Ford, cutting programs and dismantling things like the green energy program. Why do you dismantle something that you already have that is going to bring something nice for this town, for the north, for our country? One idea I have, and I'm going to end it at that, Ducks Unlimited raises a lot of money. For what? Ducks and geese are like this all over the place. Yet we're trying to save the ducks and the geese. Let's formulate a program where we can have a dinner, a fundraiser, auction. We can raise a lot of money if somebody's willing to take charge and are willing to help. And let's do something like that in the near future. After New Year's, sometime between now and spring. And don't let our council push us into thinking we got to close this thing down. Oh, we got a date. We got to vote on this. Don't let them. We voted the council in and the mayor in. Don't let them bully us by saying, yes, we'll raise your tax dollars. Well, tax dollars are going to go up anyway.
Good afternoon. One, I want to start off with saying thanks, Ed. You know, you've made some really key points in regards to council. And I've got about a half an hour speech, but we're compressing it a little shorter than that. So I want to take this opportunity and say thank you to everybody for coming out today. You know, the polar bear habitat has been here for 15 years. There's approximately $15 million that have been invested in it, and a lot of your tax dollars has done so. It's thanks to you people who have helped get it where it is today. So I'd like to say good afternoon, bonjour, wache. Welcome to everyone to discuss polar bear habitat and its position today for the Cochrane and the surrounding region. I'd like to thank JP Burdette, the board members, Charlie Angus, and the rest of the speakers for the plan that was outlined for the polar bear habitat November 17, 2019. As a councillor, we're told we have to play the neutral position, and I understand that, but out of respect, I think there's a lot of facts and information that our taxpayers who have elected us, you need to have this to make a concrete decision, and to give the decision to the council and mayor to go as in the direction that you're looking for. So let's speak about the $400,000 real quick, you know, the hot topic. Any business that has $400,000 loss a year, you know, you're going to close your business. There's no doubt. You can't operate unless you're a multi-million-dollar person. And any financial investor would say $400,000 loss is just not financially feasible. But there's opportunities, is there not? So we need to focus on information delivered to our taxpayers and our community in regards to how we find solutions to this problem. How can taxpayers make a decision if the facts are not necessarily all available, which we need to work on still? So a true question, what is the economical impact to the Cochrane community? Has it been evaluated to take in all the economic spin-offs today? I don't have it. So here's little Johnny. Johnny's got a mortgage. You know, he owns a house, $250,000, gets into a financial difficult position. He owes $50,000 on his house. Times are tough. Things are changing in his lifestyle. And you know what? It's probably easier for Johnny just to walk away from the house and leave it there and bulldoze it. Hey, same thing we might have to do with the polar bear habitat. It's easier to close the doors. So, but no, little Johnny went back to the bank and says, how can we work together? I've got financial difficulty right now and I'm looking for a plan. Can you help me with a plan to save my house and keep me economically responsible? So we don't bulldoze a house. We actually look and find solutions for little Johnny with the bank. The bank knows that working with clients to find solutions to help the client to keep the house and still pay bills. Or do you sell the house and pay the amount owing, thus reducing your liabilities at the bank? So many solutions and so many opportunities. My platform when I was elected as a potential counselor to the town of Cochrane, I spoke about the attraction and retention strategy. I alluded to the beautiful pavement with straight, bright yellow lines that represent our streets and the excellence of our infrastructure system. I've been to 4 recruitment fairs thus far on behalf of the Family Health Team, Town of Cochrane, and Mixed Group trying to hire doctors to our community. So here I walk into this beautiful location, 1,000 doctors, and they say, well, how are you going to attract me to my community? I got beautiful yellow straight lines with the nicest pavement. You got to come check it out. We live 8 hours north. Wow, that's attractive. It doesn't work. So as part of my platform, I focused on the fact that Cochrane's got to grow. It's got to have a wow factor. It's got to have something to attract those physicians here. And after being a year in the recruitment fair scenario, I have found out so much information on why we don't have doctors. And the interesting aspect is that we, Cochrane and Mixed Group, which is Eric Falls, Cochrane, and Matheson, have the best attraction strategy right now amongst almost all Ontario. Best program going. Best program growing, but we still don't have an abundance of doctors. CAP's got 10. Kirkland Lake's got 9. They're about to hire their 10th. Cochrane let one walk to CAP about a couple years ago, and we're about to lose another one. It's 2 years away from graduating. So obviously the recruitment strategy is not functioning, and we are not being designed to recruit doctors on the basis of bright yellow lines and pavement. We've got to focus on attractions, tourism. So I'm going to say hats off as we look at the sales side. Kane Terran Home Hardware. They send out that flyer on a weekly basis, and most of the men, go to the mail, pick up their flyer, open it up, and go, wow, what's on sale this week? They use marketing and getting people into their store. They use flashy pictures, sales, deals, percents off, just to name a few. That attracts you into the local store, but it also takes a positive marketing approach to get that client to spend money. Have we done that thus far? Have we marketed our community? I talked to people in London. I talked to people in Sudbury over the weekend. You got polar bears? Yeah, I seen it on CTV. They're closing it. Since when did you have polar bears? How don't you know? You're only 4.5 hours away from us. So obviously we haven't been strategically smart in regards to how we maybe allocate our funding. Our community is not perfect, yet neither is our marketing strategy. As taxpayers, did you know that if you bought a membership at the Polar Bear Habitat, that you're also entitled to free dumping fees to dump your sewage for your RV throughout the summer months? I only found that out a little bit ago. Most places charge $15 to $25 per dumping your RV. But if you bought a Polar Bear Habitat package, you then had free entitlement to dump all season long, even if it was 10 times. So as we talk about our $400,000 injection, which is about 5% of our taxes they talk about. So those that have taxes approximately at $2,500 a year is $125, which is actually equals out to 34 cents a day. If you look at $6,000 in tax base, it's 82 cents a day over 365 days. So as an example, I'm going to pick on my father for a second. For those that you may know my dad, he will spend well over that in a day in local establishments, either buying coffee or snacks or food and socializing and supporting our local community. He says, I blow more than 84 cents a day, so he says, I don't have a problem. The council implemented the MAT tax for hotels this past summer at 4%. Comment I made was if we implement the MAT tax, which is your municipal accommodation tax, to the hotels, we have a direct responsibility to ensure your community drives tourism and economic dollars to help offset municipal taxes to Cochrane. We as council and mayor are responsible for that. How do we support our max tax decision and start to take away one of those key attractions, your polar bear habitat? Recruiting doctors. Same thing. Been to multiple recruitment fairs across the community, and we are missing the wow factor. We have not marketed it well. So, FYI, cost to taxpayers. Our arena costs us about $900,000 a year of your tax base. Your library is $300,000 a year. Your daycare is $300,000 a year. Are we prepared to shut those locations down too? What is the impact to our taxes at that point? Will we become an Eric Falls or Smooth Rock? Not picking on them, but we have so much opportunity. So, doctors. They like the polar bear habitat, and I've said it is an attraction to the community. When we talk Cochrane, Ontario, it's recognized as the place of polar bear. The polar bear pen, the polar bear mascot in our community, it's polar bear everything. So my one physician I spoke to today, and I said, what's your final thoughts? He says, you know what, I moved to Cochrane. I moved to Cochrane because Cochrane had a niche. And I said, well, what is that? Our snow? He says, I'm from Toronto, I don't really like the snow. But he said, I did go to the polar bear habitat when Santa was there, and my son was about a year old. And the snow was on the ground, there was polar bears, Santa's there. He says, what a beautiful picture. One that you can't get anywhere else. He says, that memory is embedded in my head for the rest of my life. And that's all my son talks about. Polar bears and Santa and snow. Let's go back. So from the recruiting strategy perspective, if we don't have attractions to bring our physicians here, will our bright yellow lines in our pavement work? If we don't have the polar bear habitat, and it's only one spoke in the wheel, as many of them have mentioned. I'm not saying I'm pro or negative, but I am giving you the facts today. So the economic cycle, simple. People come to our community. They spend in hotels, restaurants, gas stations, retail stores. They can go anywhere they want, but they chose to come to Cochrane. That spending now creates that cycle where you spend money in those stores. Those stores and those businesses pay tax dollars into our community, and those tax dollars are spent on your infrastructure system. Okay, so talked to 2 companies in the past couple of days, and they said, you know what, we're actually not looking to come back to Cochrane anymore based on the fact that it looks like you're rolling up the streets. I'm like, no, hang on. We're still discussing the polar bear habitat and what the economic value would be. So if we're going to lose businesses, we're going to lose tax base. And if we lose tax base, every one of you are now going to be more accountable to the taxes that we have to pay for our infrastructure, our water, our sewer, our streets, and our systems, because we have no businesses left. So we need to look at this at a bigger picture. So as I come back, while I was in college, and that just seemed to be a couple years ago, I had a professor that told me, she goes, there's 2 items I need you to remember. She goes, 1, you'll probably change your jobs about 7 times in your career. And I said, hey, Missy, there's no chance I'm changing my job 7 times in my career. Nobody else ever has. Well, I'm on number 6. So interesting enough, I might have one more kick at the cat. The other part is tourism and recreation are a cost to operate and will not bring a surplus revenue. I went to school for business. I've been in business for over 20 years. As a taxpayer, yes, we fund some of that tourist and that recreational opportunities, but it was never designed to make a dollar. That's your attraction process of getting people in your community to spend those dollars to create that I call economic cycle. I said, well, interesting. So as you think of it and you leave here today, ponder on that comment, think. Tourism, recreation. If that was the case and you had to pay $50 every time you went to the pool, would you go? Probably not. So how do we do this? Most communities do it through their tax dollars. And here we are today. It's like Walmart. So let's get back to our marketing strategy for a second. So Walmart, they have sold milk for years at a cost or just below cost as a loss leader to get you into their store, although they always know that you're going to buy something with your milk. No different than Cochrane. Our polar bear habitat might be a secondary tourist attraction, but once people are here and they find out about it, they say, what a cool place to go visit. Maybe it's the Snowmobile Museum. Maybe it might be other attractions in Cochrane that we have not marketed well. So tourism and recreation needs to be designed to reduce the amount of loss on the bottom line. The bigger the question are for Cochrane taxpayers prepared to have an increase in taxes to support the infrastructure, streets, water, sewer, playgrounds, and will there be any businesses left in the community to pay that larger portion, as we come back to. Cost of living allowance, also known as COLA. It goes up every year. We have everyone but the town's cost of operation. Our fuel costs go up, our parts go up, our unionized wages and benefits go up, equipment costs go up. How are you as taxpayers going to afford to pay that if we have no businesses left in our community? Timmins had a Stars and Thunder Festival 2 years ago. 7-day music event, one of the biggest in Northern Ontario. Many people from the community did not attend due to personal choices, cost of tickets, dislike for type of music, and now the taxpayers are paying $2.3 million through their taxes because that event failed. How many years will they be paying for that? Business will only come to a striving community, not to one that's losing growth. In 2018, there was a resolution for the polar bear habitat to reduce taxpayers' expense by $50,000 a year, moving forward until it could partially or fully sustainable. We should be recognizing that the focus was already put in place prior to our council and our role. Mayor, council, town of Cochrane staff have been elected and hired to find solutions to problems. We are supposed to be problem solvers and not door closers. Let's think outside the box and work with all parties to find solutions, to work together and still be that community that is wonderfully unexpected. If after all avenues are explored, then a serious decision has to be made. But please consider the bigger picture, because once a resolution is in place, it may be too late. Thank you.
Bonjour. Good afternoon. Luc Deneau, resident from the town of Cochrane, but I'm the CEO and director for the town of Smoot Rock Falls, and I thought I'd take the afternoon today to come and listen in. I initially thought we were going to listen to stuff, so I was standing in the back, but I understand we come up here and stuff. Just want to follow up on where Darren just left off. You know, every municipality faces challenges. So, you know, mayor, council, administration, we need to listen in and provide information. It's easy to sit outside and make judgments, but we may not have all the information, and that's what I was hoping to get today before I would maybe pass comments. All municipalities are faced with challenges moving forward, whether it's infrastructure, water, sewer, maintaining daycare, growing, changing population. But it always comes down to taxes. How much is taxes going to cost me, and what do I get from it? And that seems to be, to me, the question today. It's not whether do we want the polar bears, because I think everybody wants it. I think the case is there that everybody wants something. But can we really afford it? So I always boil down, when I talk to my residents, as my job as CEO, is what is the real tax dollar to the resident? And when I say the resident, I mean to every house. Cochrane has approximately 2,500 households. When it's budget time, you have to pull X amount of dollars out of the residential, and that then is divided into the number of households. So, and that's really what is the cost to bring services to each household. I won't talk about the industrial establishment, I won't talk about the commercial, but let's talk about just the house. I just recently did an annual public meeting in Smoot Rock Falls on November 13th, and I had KPMG pull stats for me. Every year, a municipality files what is called an FIR, Financial Information Return. This is all the information that the government, the province, collects to analyze the financial position of a municipality. Where are you on the scoreboard? The average tax per household is $1,871 for the town of Cochrane, 2018 FIR. So what does that really mean? I will have people who say, well, no, my house costs $5,000. Some will say, well, no, I'm paying $800. So it depends on the size, because it's a weighted average based on assessment. But let's just go at 1,871. That is financial information return stats. So you can't, and you divide it. Now, I understand, is it 4 or 5% that the habitat costs? Well, let's take 5%. 5% of 1,800 is approximately $90 per each house. Not the persons living in the house, but each house. That is 90 divided by 365. If you have a calculator, that's $24 cents and 82 cents. So 25 cents per day every house. So if you would have a jar, and you would take 25 cents and put it in a jar, at the end of the year, you would have $90 to bring over to pay for that. Now, the other question is, does our taxes, are they really expensive? And I recall many years ago listening to a presentation at FNUM, and Oscar said, so what do you get for that tax dollar? You get roads, you get plows, you get your garbage picked up, you get the ambulance service, you get the OPP, you get daycare, you get fire coverage. Now, Water and sewer bills are separate. For those who live in a rural, we don't pay water and sewer. We go out to the bank, we sign a $20,000 loan and we put a well. And then we go and get another loan and we put a septic bed for $15,000. Whereas the urban users, they pay water and sewer charges on their user fees. So let's just talk about taxes. $1,871. So what does it cost to get you a cell? Internet and satellite TV. We could survey, but the average cost is about $3,600 a year. Now, let's go back to the house. $1,871. You get roads, you get plows, you get daycare, you get this beautiful rink, you get the pool. So is $1,800 really too expensive? So the challenge that I always put out is there's two ways to balance a budget. You can grow your revenues, or you can cut your revenues. But sometimes we trip over a dollar by cutting. The net effect is down the road, it will cost you more. We have a unique, superior site in the polar bear habitat. Now, the other thing is, we currently have, I believe, another wonderful board that's working. We've been blessed that we've had past boards who worked really hard to take it here 15 years. It's not time to give up. It's time to move forward. We need to grow. I believe the council should make the hard decision and keep it open. Give it a 3-year winding down portion. Give the board 1 year to restructure it, put it on place. I know there are competing other costs that play in the vein. The other item that, what we may not realize is we have crippling infrastructure. And the cost of that, to replace the 10-year critical infrastructure, based on stats from the province 2 or 3 years ago by the Association Municipal of Ontario, which should cost us about 8% per year in order to fix it. So I can understand where council is sitting and said, 300 here, infrastructure. So it's not an easy choice. So I understand that. But we need the polar bear habitat to continue the growth, really, because we're shooting ourselves in the foot. So in closing, the other thing is, Darren talked about his lessons at school. And I describe it this way. There are pie growers and pie slicers in economic development. And tourism is a pie grower. A pie slicer is if you have 5 restaurants in your town, you add another one, they're now going to try to get each other's sales. But when you get tourism, it adds. Is it the answer to survival? No, but it is part of the key ingredient to make it happen. Last but not least, I just come from a CEO conference 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I sat there and I listened in, and they said, urban Ontario, Southern Ontario, grows at an average rate of 36% annually. The rural Ontario in Southern Ontario grows at an average of 7%. We don't have that luxury. So let's keep the little bit that's going to help us survive, and over time, we will succeed. Thank you.
My name is Terry O'Donnell, and I'd like to thank Darren Hugenhout for coming up here and stating his position on the polar bear habitat. And I'd like to invite any other councillor who might like to come to the microphone, because we don't all attend council meetings. We don't know what their position on this is, and they may have some enlightening words to share with us. We thought it was going to be a meeting where we would be able to ask questions and talk to them, but maybe if they stood up here, they could represent their views to all these people that are here, probably 20 times more people that come to any council meeting. Thank you.
I'll take that challenge. Good evening, everybody. Or good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Todd Kalazzi. I'm a newly elected councillor. As noted earlier this afternoon, that all my fellow councillors and mayor are all newly elected. We can take that under an advisement that obviously the town of Cochrane wanted some change, or look for something different in the community, right? Here we are today. We're at this very important benchmark in our position as council and mayor. We've been tasked with the challenge of prepping our budgets for the next year. And when we start looking at the costs, we end up with the challenge of looking at the polar bear habitat. I want to be clear that not one of us are looking to close this habitat. We never said it's closed. We said we are considering closing it, okay? It's really important, and I'm glad to see that everybody's here. Because at the end of the day, what we're seeing is that if we do adopt a motion or continue to carry on with the polar bear habitat, we're going to have to increase taxes substantially. I'm okay with that. I'll pay the taxes. I'm not complaining about that. But is the rest of the community on board with that, right? So we just wanted to reach out and get everybody's opinion in that direction. Now, we are working with different groups and different organizations and the Polar Bear Habitat Foundation to try and find ways to make the facility sustainable. That is not a question, okay? So, and again, I can't say enough of how many people have showed up and showed support. It's an important thing. The fact of the matter is we have increasing costs for infrastructure, which we don't have funding available for. We have operational costs that are increasing, and we have that challenge. So we've put this out to the community to ask them what their views are. And I would really like to, does anybody have any questions that I could maybe respond to, or, yes? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes? Sorry, I can't. So I think I heard, but our next council meeting is Tuesday. We're not making a final decision anytime soon. This is right now we're going into budget and preliminary deliberations, and this is one of our topics. I don't know if I heard your question right.
Kind of the game plan, or our game plan, was to bring it forth, having all these discussions, and on the December 10th meeting, it will be on the agenda. Now, are we going to make a final decision? I guess only councils will dictate that. But I do believe we're going to, or I'd like to do, is our next council meeting is November 26th, and I think we will have a bit of a discussion of what everyone's heard, and kind of we'll probably hear the same passionate speech that we heard from Councillor Hohenhound on Tuesday, and that's okay. That's what democracy is all about. So no, it's certainly not final, but we need to move forward with 2020 and building our budgets, and the December 10th council meeting is certainly a key meeting.
Yes, Jerry.
What's your feeling on referendum? You know that there's a silent majority of it, for the most part, supporters of that. We all are supporters of that. There's tough decisions, not just with polar bear habitat, many other parts of the budget. Because there's been some wasteful spending over the past 10 years that's caused us to have an incredibly high debt for a town this size. So what's your idea of a referendum? That would be easy, because everybody gets a tax bill. Send out a ballot. You've got a question that requires an answer, send out a ballot. Let the silent majority participate in this. You're not all as mouthy as I am.
So I appreciate your comment. I mean, the idea behind this was, again, as a new council and mayor, we have been elected to make fiscally responsible decisions, okay? We have to look at them. We have to weigh in the spin-off effects. We have to spin in the taxpayers' effect. There's so many different venues and avenues to consider. I myself am a business owner. I can tell you that, and I am a sole owner, so there's no 7 people at a table to make a decision, right? We have to make business decisions swift and fast. We have to make educated and calculated decisions, and if we make poor decisions, we cease to exist in the business world. Here we are. This is a new hat for me, sitting in the public sector, which I really enjoy, by the way, and it's challenging because we sit here and we task ourselves with creating budgets, but we have, as Luke said earlier, challenges with revenue. Revenue only comes from residents, right? I can't go out of town and get a contract somewhere else to bring in more revenue. I can't really downsize. I can to an extent, but there's certain infrastructures that are essential. So when it comes to us sitting and looking at our budgets and trying to decipher where the funds go, it's a challenge, I'll be honest with you. And we can't cut back on water and sewer. We can't cut back on, I mean, there's lots of areas we can't. We can agree on that, and there's areas we can. I'm not saying that we have to. We can keep everything afloat, but somewhere the money has to come from. And we want to know that the taxpayers, we wanted to know their opinion and their idea, and that's why this open house is here. And if the silent folks don't show up, they had their chance, right? This is an open house we've put on for everybody. It's a good event for us to get a feel from the community as to how we want to proceed with this facility. Nobody, again, I've got to say it, nobody here wants to close this facility, but there are challenges. State, they are financial challenges which will end up going to the taxpayer.
Just to direct answer your question, Jerry. We did talk about holding a referendum. The feeling of council was not. One, we've been elected from all you people to make those very tough decisions and ask those very tough questions. So the easy way out, Jerry, is to have a referendum for us. 2 easy way outs. A referendum, make us look good. None of us is there to make ourselves look good, because we will make those hard decisions. And so, you know, that's the kind of you can hide behind that for sure, but that's not the feeling of council. And you know what? Come as the next couple of weeks, if council decides to have a referendum, then that'll be the will of council.
We'll do the front and then one in the back.
Thank you for that. A very important comment. Um, as a new council, we certainly are looking into and reviewing and constantly reviewing the operation. You know, that is certainly the operational reviews is certainly a staff issue. We, as a council, certainly need to give them direction of what they're reviewing. Through the budgeting system is one approach. And then there's also other operational reviews that now that we've heard these things, we will certainly try to address them and have our new CEO certainly look into those types of situations and some recommendations. So thank you for that.
I'm not sure where the truck was going Sunday.
They're saying international research, scientific institution. We could not conduct study without you. Okay, so what type of financial support are we getting? Because we're using the facility, right? So they should be paying, right, something to us to use what they call cannot conduct studies without you. So, okay, we're important. So what are we doing now? Animal care facilities, are we getting financial contributions from them? Like, I don't know everything comes there, the food, the keeping it healthy, all that. So it's just something I was wondering, what's the breakdown of the $400,000 that we paid each year? You know, I'm blind. We don't know. We're paying, but we don't know what we're paying for. I want to be more informed. That's my.
Again, it's an excellent question. It's unfortunately I don't have an excellent answer. The answer that I do know is yeah, there's a lot of discussion out there that we are an international research. My understanding of things is we are not. We are not doing that type of research. We are doing some research, but we're not doing all the research that some people in the community are advocating. And no one is paying us to do any research. It's another avenue that if we get into that situation that you know, it should be explored, absolutely. But at this particular claim, we're not getting funded for any research. That's my understanding of it. And maybe some of the staff that could clarify that. I don't want to put you under the bus, Michael, but yeah, there's plenty of misinformation, absolutely.
The town, we did put out a bulletin on what that $400,000 how it's spent. Salaries, heating, electricity.
So we could look at posting a type of breakdown. So for all intent and purpose, the numbers that have been presented are just showing the cost to the taxpayer from a revenue and expense standpoint. So it's largely tied to revenues coming in the door and expenses associated with operating the facility. We can show you that breakdown if she has, there you go. And, but generally, you're carrying a deficit through a lack of revenues, right? That's the purpose of showing us. It's, yeah. Yeah. What's that, Gaston, sir?
What is that $400,000 spent on what? Is it heating? Is it electricity? Is it wages?
All the above.
Hi. I'm sorry I didn't quite hear your entire question, but part of the answer was about research. In general, the research community is an academic community, and we usually don't get paid directly to host researchers or for the work they do there, but some of them do donate as a as a thank you for using our facilities. There are different models, and I know the board has been looking at if we are going to expand our research capacity, we can look at different models. But the traditional academic model for research is that you get favors and you return favors, and it's not always directly a financial benefit. We do often get donated equipment, like microscopes, for example, and other equipment that we may need at the habitat, and sometimes financial donations, but we don't charge and we don't have a costing model for research. So when the board has been talking about a vision or looking to the future of expanding our research capacity, we are looking at different models where we can earn some more revenue from research, if that answers your question. Okay, thank you. You are absolutely correct. It is what research brings, and the more you publish in peer-reviewed journals, the bigger your reputation gets, the more you attract in fundraising and sponsorships and donations. So a group that I think most people have heard about is the Smithsonian Institute in the United States. They have some of the finest natural history museums in the world, and that is such a visibility that rich donors and sponsors will gladly fund their activities every year. So yes.
Okay, thank you.
So just, again, before we get too far into these discussions, just ask the question here, and this is what we're here for. And that's what we're trying to come up with. There's a lot of nice statements being said, but what are the solutions? That's what we're looking for. Does anybody have any solutions? And yeah, it's probably our job to come up with the solutions, but that's what we're trying to do here. Yeah.
Backpedaling way back to the idea of a referendum and the fact that there is a silent majority, I see young adults and I see older people here. I do not see parents of children because there's no child care. Parents of children really care about using the polar bear habitat. A lot of people buy year passes just to have their kids swim in the pool, just to take their kids on walks. They can't come to these meetings.
That's a good point. We do have a meeting this evening, and children are welcome as well if they want to come. We've made a time slot for after hours as well.
Childcare provided. It's bedtime and childcare time. Like,
Don, I think you had a question? Sorry, Jerry, just a second.
I don't have a booming voice, so I'll use the mic. My name's Don DeFinney. I think we're all proud of our polar bear habitat, and it's something, if we can keep it, I think it would be a great benefit. But there are a few things we need to do, and I think one is we need a liaison who will sit in with the ONR to do something about our polar bear to Moosonee. That's not been on the slide for years and years, and it's not drawing people. When I first came to Cochrane, there were license plates from Ohio, Michigan, all over the North America. People were coming up here to go up on the polar bear. Now it's just sliding to nowhere. And I think the town has to get in there and organize ONR. They don't seem to be able to organize their crap. So I think we got to get in there and do something about it. So we need a liaison who's on their board and say, listen, we've got to improve this ride up to Moosonee. People get up there and they get off the train and they don't know what they're doing. And most of the people going up there are seniors. There should be golf carts. You sit on, take a tour around, some direction. There's very little of that. So I think that's one thing we need. And I think the other thing, we need long-term commitments from the governments. Charlie Angus said, yeah, I think we gotta keep it, but where's the beef, where's the money? So we need, I think we need a bloodhound from the council who's going to look into grants from ONR, Fit North, Department of the Environment, we have Federal Ministry. All of these agencies have to be tapped to get that money, so there's less burden on the town. I think people are prepared to pay some, but there's a limit. Thank you.
Just a quick thing here, and this is for all the councils in there to see that we have a good turnout. Taxpayers are obviously tied to the financial success of the facility. I'm wondering if I'd be able to ask a show of hands of how many people are members of the facility and pay an annual fee. It gives us a good idea, and it's good to see that there's people. It's about 50% of the room, it looks like. So Jerry, and then you next.
Okay, a quick question. A lot of numbers, a lot of financials there. As you're aware, I think the union's been voted in there. Has that been factored into the numbers that are presented? Or louder, Jerry. Louder.
The question was, has the union been voted in at the polar bear habitat? And the short answer is, yes, it has. But that is not what the main focus is here. We are in negotiations with CUPE. We have a long history with CUPE in this community. So yes, it is in there. Some of those numbers, the 2020 numbers, are factored in. They're not the final numbers, so we're negotiating, so we don't know what the final numbers are. We can anticipate what benefit it's going to cost. So yeah, they are being organized and unionized, but that is not the main focus of this decision or this discussion. Even if they weren't, it's about the $400,000 moving forward, and that's what it's all about. So, you know, again, they are being unionized, and good for them because, you know what, they've been underpaid for a long time, and haven't been receiving any benefits, and so on and so on. So it's good for them to be organized, but we are not, that is not the factoring or the main driver of this decision. The main driver of this decision is economics.
Oh gosh, I'm short. Hello. My name is Heather. I'm a volunteer at the Polar Bear Habitat. I'm not directly affiliated in any way that I, receive money or anything. I give them a lot of time. I've been a volunteer there for 5 years, so that's partly in terms of preparing diets, that's partly in terms of marketing, holding events to benefit the habitat. I was part of the team that put on the gala this past year that raised $32,000. So I certainly have put effort into the habitat, and I just want to tell you a little bit about the marketing, because I know Rodney spoke to that. In the last 5 years that I've been a volunteer at the Polar Bear Habitat, there has not been a marketing plan. There have been 4 interns who have filled marketing roles, but never with a long-term plan for how to kind of roll this out in a grand scale. And as far as I understand, perhaps Michael could speak to that, that hasn't been addressed at a managerial level either. The other thing that I know is that we do have a company that came in from Toronto and offered us pro bono work to develop that marketing plan. Okay, so that plan is something that they are ready to implement. They were hoping to roll out this month. Obviously they can't do that now, but there is a plan in place to make sure that major players across the country know about the habitat. I know that at one point the CAO alluded to the fact that that might cost approximately $100,000. I'm not sure if that's true. I don't believe that it is. My understanding is that this marketing company is hoping to cost as they go. So not necessarily implement everything all at once and have it leave money out of our pocket, but instead make slow steps, do some fundraising, and fundraising is a big part of their plan. So they're willing to implement that strategy and lead that strategy, and that's more than we've had in the last 5 years. So I just wanted you all to know that that's in the works. I want to speak to the bears. The care that they receive is unreal. I've seen it firsthand. I've spoken to animal care providers from other facilities who have come here and been blown away by what our bears get when they're here. We are leaders in animal welfare, and other facilities look to us to what can be done with these animals. I'm part of the animal care committee at the Habitat, so any changes, any research that comes through as a proposed research, or any changes to the husbandry standards, which is how they treat the animals and the practices that they use basically in their day-to-day lives, I get to see that information. I get to give advice on behalf of the Cochrane community on that information. So I see what the plans are, and I can tell you they're really well cared for. I can also tell you that there's limited space in Canada for polar bears, that the Marine Mammal Protection Act prohibits these polar bears from entering the United States, and that when Henry came to Canada, it cost $250,000 to do that. So if we're looking at what would happen to these bears afterwards, those are just things to consider. The last thing that I want to say, I want to speak to the press release issued by the town of Cochrane, because it did say town council seeks to close polar bear habitat. So I think that is something that was outlined by the town, and so to say that that's not the case is surprising to me. I was kind of hoping that while I was talking about this that the charts would be up. But there are 2 charts outlined in a financial analysis that was published. The press release specifically indicates increased operating costs. However, if you look at the graph, the blue line is revenue, and it's going up. Take a look next time it comes up. The bottom number is, my apologies, wrong sheet. Well, I have it here. The bottom number in 2013 is $227,000. Never mind, 227,877. I can't do numbers. That's in 2013. In 2018, the revenue number is 398,455. So despite a press release that says that revenues are going down, the data that is presented to us by the town is actually that those revenues are going up. The other thing I want to speak to is costs. Again, the press release issued by the town states that, revenue. I was talking about revenue. Revenue is going up. Costs seem to be stabilizing. There is a slight upward trend. If you look at the blue line, is the actual numbers of what the cost into the town. It says that at the bottom there, actual net cost in blue. There is a slight upward trend there, but also I have the financials for the polar bear habitat. If anyone wants to see this year, they're actually on track to decrease again. So to say that costs are increasing in 2019 to me seems misleading at best. And that is all I have to say.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jane Skidmore Fox. I was a town councillor for 15 years. And the big question that I have, that I would like to help the new mayor and council, you're asking for how can we achieve the $400,000. That's what I understand what the bottom line is, it's $400,000. I did some homework and I made some phone calls. And there are 20, this is the bottom line that I'm just going to give you, there are 2,686 ratepayers in our community. That includes households, business owners, vacant land, people that don't live here who pay taxes. they're $26.86. $400,000 is approximately $3 and change a week. Your total bill, if they only want to work on the $400,000, is $148 and change a year. You're not working on then your cost per house or everything. This is what the ratepayers are. And I just wanted to bring this as light to everybody. That would be your maximum, because you're not basing it on the FRI and the cost of your house if you have a $500,000 house or a $125,000 house. So based on everybody who don't even live here, $3 and change a week. The maximum would be $148 and change a week. If that's only one to get rid of, that's $400,000. So that's coming at the plain bottom line that I come up with. Appreciate it.
I think that's a great suggestion. So I just make sure we captured and get it clear. You're suggesting $148 levy on every tax bill.
$3, no, a year, because it was $3 and change a week.
That's strictly
$400,000.
400,000, yeah.
Get rid of your $400,000 for 1 year, so that the polar bear habitat can work on their plan for 2020, and that's what I said.
So an extra levy, kind of well, it's a levy on every tax bill.
Yeah.
Thank you for the
Divided over
suggestion.
12 months, which is like $12 a month, $3.
We captured that. And thank you for the suggestion.
Hi, my name is Sue Parton, and I had no intentions of getting up to speak because my days of public speaking are pretty well over. I'm retired. I'm a retired professional forester, so I have a science background. 28 years ago, my husband and I chose to move here. I worked for the Ministry of Natural Resources at that point in time, and actually so did my husband. We are born and raised and have all our family in Toronto. So we are from the big city. When we moved here, Cochrane had a lot going on, and I'll have to say my husband worked for the regional office of the Ministry of Natural Resources. And I don't know, a lot of you have been around obviously a long time. I don't know if you remember when the Ministry of Natural Resources regional office shut down. I don't know the impact right now of how many jobs we lost, but I can say with a surety that out of the regional office that shut down, I don't know whether it was 30, 40, 50, 60 people, the jobs were moved to Timmins or South Porcupine. Well, no, Timmins originally, and then now South Porcupine. You made a choice back then. You either moved or your job was redundant and you were gone. There was only 3 that I can think of that took their jobs in Timmins and refused to move to Timmins. There was a mass exodus out of Cochrane at that point in time. My husband and I were one. Dan Cook was another. And Dan Cook is still around. And then Bob Wilson, who eventually moved to Timmins. Anyways, that was a big hit that Cochrane took. We moved here as professionals because of what was offered in the town. We chose not to go to Timmins. We could have moved to Timmins. Our expenses to move to Timmins when that office shut down would have been paid for 100%. They would have taken our house over from us. We could have moved to Timmins. We chose to live here because Cochrane had a lot going for it. And as we've stayed here now, I'm retired, my husband is retiring at the end of the year. We're making choices right now. Do we stay in Cochrane or do we move? We have no family here, no ties here other than the friends and the adopted family that we've made. And what we've seen in Cochrane, I mean, argument for the past council, you know, positive, negative, whatever, but over the last 8 to 10 years, we have a lot going on in this town. We've moved ahead, we have new facilities, and it's just amazing what this town has. Polar bear habitat is a key component of what this town has. Everybody's been talking about the impact on taxes, as well as a tourism facility, and that is key, and that is one of the biggest things, yes. So it is only going to cost, let's just say, 50 cents a day, 75 cents a day. There's been a little variance on the numbers, but pretty well, it's not a lot. It's less than a Tim Hortons coffee. And I know there's a lot of people that go to Tim Hortons every day. But anyways, where I was going with this is that I'm going to take the opposite end. My background is science. I'm still involved in forestry. I ran an organization, a nonprofit organization that was into research into the forest environment, soils, climate change, the whole gamut, as well as socioeconomic. So we did studies between Iroquois Falls, Smooth Rock Falls, Kapuskasing, Cochrane and Timmins on economic impacts and social aspects and such. So my background is coming from the science. The research that the polar bear habitat is doing is key. It hasn't been well publicized, and I've actually made some comments that they need to get out the information to the local people on what they're doing, because they are doing key research. They are the only facility in the world that is doing the research they are doing, and they are doing it on the polar bear. The polar bear is the poster child for climate change. And we are in a changing climate, and the impacts are going to be massive. We have swings of the weather that we are seeing now. It's not climate, or it's not climate warming, or it's not the warming trend. There is no warming trend. It is climate change. So the impacts, the swings are going to be huge. The polar bear habitat is being used as an indicator of what is going on in our environment and what is going on in our world. If we close this facility, be it we're not getting money for the research, but we have researchers that have moved here. We have 4 to 6, and I don't know the numbers because, I don't know everything that's going on there. We have those people that have moved here. They have families here. Close down the facility, exit again. We have people that are volunteering there that stay because of that facility. Close it down, they're going to be gone too. We stop research, somebody else may pick it up, they may not. But just think, what about if research on, I'm going to use a large, maybe it's not that corollary, but anyways, cancer research. Oh, we're doing it in Timmins, the facility, we can't have it, so let's shut it down because we can't afford it, so we've not moved ahead. What happens in 10 years now, 10 years down the road, where research that we're doing on the polar bear isn't there because we've shut down the facility? It is key. We can learn a lot from them. We can learn a lot, the changes on the environment, and therefore what the environment is doing for the impacts locally as well as federally and across the world. Everybody has to take that into account and put all those factors together. So it is a valuable research facility is kind of what I'm rambling on about. Yes, it's a tourism facility. We have a polar bear in our logo. Holy cow, if we close down the one facility in the world that does polar bear research and that we are unique, we close it down, what does that say to us about us? Right now, in Toronto, my family is there. I am getting feedback of what the heck are you guys doing? Like, really? You got a polar bear in your logo and you're thinking of shutting down the facilities? Well, then we got to change your logo and we got to take Chino away because, we built it. It's a deficit, yes, but we have it now. You can't go backwards. We take a step back, a big step back. And I'm sure that's not sponsored me to keep going, so I'm going to wrap it up. Sorry, this is longer than I thought. I used to do a lot of public speaking. Anyways, so my board on Sunday made a presentation, and they have been working on having a feasibility study done. There's going to be a business plan coming out of that. They are almost there. They have a marketing firm that has donated 2 years worth of work to rebrand and to change the facility and try to get partnerships and funding. And to cut out the legs from underneath them within a month, that's just, I mean, it's mind-boggling, and I've worked for the federal and municipal So, bottom line is that, I mean, at least give them the year, and the taxes, we're already paying the taxes. We're already paying the $400,000 the past 5, 10, 15 years. It's in our taxes right now. So it's there, let's keep paying it for 1 year, let's see what the board comes out with. We've got an excellent board on there. Their qualifications, we've got First Nations involved in there too. The qualifications of those board members are astronomical, look them up. Do a search on the internet and you'll see their qualifications. Let's give them a chance with this, where they were headed, and give them a chance to turn this facility around and make Cochrane proud. Thanks.
Hi everyone, some of you may know me. My name is Amy. I am one of the animal care staff at the Polar Bear Habitat. I'll start by saying that no, I'm not a Cochrane local. I grew up in Canberra, Australia, but I moved to Canada to start my career with wildlife, and Cochrane really helped me to do that. Prior to being here, I worked with Asian bears rescued from horrible conditions in Cambodia, and then I've also worked in northern British Columbia working with orphaned black bears and brown bears. So bears are kind of my thing, and I really hope that they will be in the future. I've been at the Habitat for 3.5 years now. I was taken on a year-long contract, and I've stayed ever since. We have an amazing team at the Habitat of specialized, dedicated people. All of us have moved with our family. We have made our lives here. And you know, we love Cochrane, and we really hope that we will be able to stay. And the reason that we came here is for the polar bears. We have received a number of letters of support from globally recognized institutions such as Polar Bears International, Churchill Northern Studies Centre, the Leatherdale International Polar Bear Conservation Centre, and the Centre for Conservation and Research of Endangered Wildlife, to name a few. These are some of the quotes from those letters that we have received. This is an impressive facility as it is, and can become a top research centre with support. North American facilities that house polar bears do not compare to the Habitat. The space and naturalistic environment it provides to its residents bears is unparalleled. The basic knowledge we gain from the bears living in the Habitat can, quite simply, not be replicated anywhere else. The Polar Bear Habitat is a globally recognized leader in polar bear research. We are certainly familiar with the budgetary challenges of operating a remote facility devoted to research and education, but the rewards are well worth the investment in time, energy, and resources. Our community partners recognize our facility attracts researchers and others from around the world. But don't take my word from it. Take a look through the letters of support from these professional institutions that can be accessible through Town Hall, or if you'd like to speak to me about that afterwards, you can as well. The biggest misconception that I've heard is that we are just a zoo. We are just a tourist attraction. We are not a zoo, and we are not just a tourist attraction. In fact, we are the closest thing in the world to the only polar bear sanctuary, since we focus only on one species and provide the largest enclosures in the world. Now, I'd like to talk about the science implications. We have more information on polar bears than anywhere else in the world has ever recorded. That's a fact. It's on our computer right now. That includes behavior, head and body measurements, and natural denning behaviors from a possibly pregnant female that we have on site right now. Because we monitor our bears 24/7 and provide them with highly specialized individual behavioral plans, we are a leader in welfare standards of animals in human care. But we are more than just research. We participate directly in wild polar bear conservation with coastal communities on the Hudson and James Bay, where we develop technologies for field scientists. We are raising and setting the highest standards for polar bears all over the world. We also have amazing on-site and outreach educational programs that have been implemented all over the world, from the United States to Europe to Australia. We are excited for the Board of Directors' new plan and possible upgrades to the Habitat. These upgrades will help us grow and potentially bring in more revenue. However, let me assure you that if this is not financially feasible, it is not necessary to implement any new additions, new staff, or unnecessary repairs or maintenance. We want, more than anyone, for the habitat to succeed and be less reliable on the taxpayers' money. The staff of the Polar Bear Habitat is 100% committed to working with the Town of Cochrane and the Board of Directors to ensure that the cost to the taxpayer will not be raised in 2020, and in fact will reduce the bottom line by increasing revenues. I fully trust and support our board members who are experienced professional specialists that have done their research and have hard data to effectively implement their plan, the plan that they've been working on for the last 2 years. We are hoping that the Board of Directors is given the chance to implement their long-term initiative and receive final plans for this amazing venture they have taken on as volunteers. They have been working on this plan for the past 2 years, and it's unfortunate that they haven't been able to present to the public since it's not final yet. If you are a supporter of the Habitat, or if you have any questions, please reach out to me, the Mayor, or the Council to have those questions answered, and to share your passion for the Habitat. I am worried, so are the staff, so are other facilities, about where these bears will go if we close. There is nowhere else for them in Canada to go. The places that asked us to house them because they are full. So nowhere in Canada can these bears go. That means that they will be shipped overseas to possibly Europe or Asia, where their care standards may not meet what we have here. It will be stressful and it will be incredibly costly. If something doesn't seem right, please ask questions. If there is something that I can clear up, I'll be available for the rest of this meeting or even tonight if you would like to speak about that more. Thank you to the Town of Cochrane for their support. You have kept us going all these years, and I believe we can still keep going. Thank you to our dedicated volunteers, our support groups, like People for the Polar Bear Habitat. Thank you to our supportive and committed Board of Directors, and thank you all for coming out tonight and showing your support.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sean McDonald. I'm a resident here in Cochrane, and I am extremely passionate about what goes on in our town. And there's just a couple of things I wanted to say. And the first thing is that we are extremely lucky in this town. Dare I say, we have the most beautiful town in Northern Ontario. I would say even north of maybe even north of Barrie, Aurelia. Density-wise, we have the most beautiful facilities. Sorry, I'm a DJ, so this is the way I speak. Because nobody can hear me back. So, but anyways, I'm very saddened to see that this is going on right now. This is a big step backwards. And there's been a couple of things that I've been seeing that have been going on. I'm not sure that the public is quite aware of. And the first thing is, why, if someone can point me in the right direction as to why the yearly memberships were put to a stop. Is everybody aware of that, that you're no longer allowed to buy yearly memberships at the Polar Bear Habitat? You're aware of that? Whose idea was that?
Let me step in there and correct some information. When we heard, thank you for the question. I just wanted to explain my thought process because I was the one originally responsible for that. When I heard that the habitat may close, I asked the site supervisor to not take any more memberships because I didn't feel it correct that we would take a dollar amount for a year's membership without being certain that we could offer that benefit. However, after the board meeting on Sunday, I heard a lot of comments from people. I went back to the site supervisor and we had a discussion and we said, if people want memberships and they can have them, we will just let you know that we may or may not be around in a year's time. So as long as we inform you. So it was my original call, and I corrected that call when I heard feedback from the public. So
Just one other point as well. I heard that some people have said that we don't take donations. That is not correct. We have always taken donations, and it would be awesome if we could get the donations we need. But yes, we've received donations yesterday and the day before, and that has never stopped. Thank you.
So is the public aware of that? So how is that going to be put back into the public to let them know that, because I had family members go there, and then they said they weren't allowed to, without an explanation, why they weren't allowed to buy it.
They want to buy a whole year membership or just admittance into the membership?
Well, admissions, we're always open. So this was membership, because that is a financial commitment, or we promised to give you access for a year, and we just felt that there was a little bit of a conflict there. But as long as we inform you and you're aware of that, so we changed that policy. As everybody here knows, things are moving very, very quickly. So these decisions have been made all rapidly. Our website, which lists the membership prices, we hadn't had time to update that from that original call, and it's still there, that you can have memberships. So it's still there on the website.
You want to ask me? You want to say something?
Just one more thing. The GoFundMe page on Facebook is now up to $12,700.
Oh, that's great. The GoFundMe for the polar bear habitat is up to $15. That's great.
15.
Oh, 15, sorry, 15. Oh, that's great. One other thing I wanted to say is that I encourage Mayor and Council to do this again tonight, because when I first came in here today, I was told that we weren't going to be allowed to ask any questions. Now, you want feedback from the public. Yes, you can write things down on a piece of paper. And from what I heard was, quote unquote, from one of the council members was, we don't want to be put in the line of fire. Now, what does that tell you? We're here to raise our voice about this, because this is obviously special to us, and we should have the right, and you guys should have the right, just like a council meeting, to accept questions from the public. And one more thing, don't believe everything you read on Facebook, people, okay? There's a lot of misinformation out there, and I see people flying off the handle for nothing. It's up to you. There's somebody saying something over here, it's up to you to make a decision. So don't believe everything you see on social media, and that's all I have to say, thanks.
Just to clarify for this evening, it'll be basically the same type of format. So yes, we initially wanted to have a very casual discussion, but we were listening, and that's what you wanted, is this kind of dialogue. So that's what we're doing, and that's what we'll continue to do. Thank you.
Go ahead. I'm sure she'll let you.
I'm kind of out of my comfort zone here.
We can't hear you, Marty.
Okay, I'm out of my comfort zone standing in front of everybody. But I just want to explain, almost 2 years ago, the Habitat had put an ad out in the paper looking for volunteers. Well, polar bears, man, they're animals. I love animals. So I went for it. And it's the best thing I think I've ever done. It has to be. And while there, I noticed the Heritage Village kind of run down. So I asked them, is there any way I can adopt that farmhouse? I can tweak it really good. I can make it so much better for the public. And that gave me great pleasure. But I really, really enjoy going in every Friday into bear hunting. And I just cut meat and vegetable stuff for those bears. I'm going to cry. It's very emotional to see what's happening right here. If you got to know these people, the staff, the other volunteers, they become like family to me. I love them all to death. As the bears too, and you will see things if anybody actually volunteered to go in there. And I asked you, Mr. Clement, like, would you go in for a whole day? Pet me? No, so you know. You need to experience this. It's humbling, but it's something, I just love it. I've gotten to know these people. I've seen other things go on in there that is just incredible, like the insights and what they do and how they handle these bears and the love they have for those bears. How many here can go to a job somewhere and say, I love getting up in the morning to go to my job? I bet you some here, they hate it, they just go for the paycheck. Those bear keepers and the people that work there love it there. They enjoy it. It gives you reason to get up. But they have their hearts are in it. It's compassion. And you're not gonna find that many people around that really love doing their work and saving these animals and showing them off to the world and giving them people facts and information. Like, I didn't know none of this stuff. Like, when I lived in Cochrane, or outside of Cochrane, I don't know, 30 years. And it's just in the last few years, I stepped out, went there. And I have saved this town some money, believe me. I have. So I hope that anyway, visit, buy your membership, buy from the gift shop, volunteer there. They always need volunteers because people can come and go, people move on or whatever, and they always need a new injection of volunteers. So please step up to the plate. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. They're duly noted. I don't know if you've been in there for a day to cut meat, but I know on more than one occasion I've actually gone out to a dead moose on the side of the highway with a crew of guys, picked it up and brought it to the habitat at 2 in the morning and spent lots of time cutting meat. So I've done that, and I've donated my time, and I do believe in the facility. In the helicopter world, we've moved polar bears, we've slung polar bears, we've carried them, we have an attachment to it. So we are very versed to what's going on here, and again, this is us listening to you folks, and we are regardless stuck with a financial responsibility that we need to make an educated decision on, right? So.
Todd, I don't know if
And then, come on up. Go ahead, Jim.
I don't know if it was likely touched on by Marnie regarding the Heritage Village. To me, the biggest attraction there, at the beginning, when Jerry Miller had his display in there, it was complete, and it was the Heritage Village. I mean, the polar bears once or twice, okay, but the Heritage Village, to me, it just instills so many thoughts and memories and stuff in my mind. And as far as a tourist attraction or a way to generate funds, to me, that's where it's at. I just thought I'd mention that to get it on the record so that you folks consider that part of it as well. Thank you.
My name is Don Monroe. I'm a volunteer at the Heritage Village. To a few speakers ago, nobody had mentioned it. I've been volunteering there for 14 years, and I really love the Heritage Village. Yes, when Mr. Miller's materials left, it wasn't as full, but through the donations of the people of the town of Cochrane, we have now got beautiful things on display, and more items are coming in all the time. So I would say that if the polar bear habitat, if the decision is to close, that the Heritage Village, like the Snowmobile Museum, are spokes in that flat wheel.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fanny Bezabolier. I'm the operator of the Best Western here in Cochrane. I'll speak a little bit on behalf of the tourism aspect of things and the hospitality industry, the income that the polar bear habitat has been giving us in the last years. Of course, the volume went down a little bit in terms of people coming to see just the bear. However, when a lot of our guests are staying here in Cochrane, they're staying here, and then they're going to see the habitat, which is a big hit. I've always personally marketed the habitat like an educational facility in terms of understanding the concept behind the bears, what we can do. They cannot live in the wild by themselves, so the polar bear habitat in Cochrane is helping them to survive and learn skills on their own. People from down south, the Americans, are absolutely fascinated about that. Just last summer, we started to have a little bit more tour bus coming from the United States. People are fascinated about the bears, so I have 2 types of tour buses. One that will drive by and keep going down to Thunder Bay, so they're kind of doing a tour, Or we have the one that's stopping, going to Moose factory and coming back the next day. So they're investing 3 days up north and 1 day up the coast, 2 nights at Cochrane. Now I do have some tours booked, but I don't know after this decision with the council if we're gonna have to create new packages in some way, because right now that's the only tangible product we have to offer to our tourists here in Cochrane. So either we have to create, which the Cochrane Tourism Association is working on it, definitely working their best to create different packages because we need more than that, we understand. However, it is attracting people. And I think some perspective, it's not giving us any revenue. It is because they're coming to Cochrane and then it's attraction for them to do while they're here. So I just wanted to make that clear, and also the fact that what are we going to do? I do have tour buses booked. If not, we'll have to create a new package. We'll have to, because I still want them to invest their money in Cochrane. So this is just a concern that I have as an operator and for revenue to come into Cochrane. Thank you.
I know the scheduled time is coming to an end. I'm not sure how we're going to progress from here, but I just wanted to catch your attention before anyone wants to leave. With the board, the advisory board and the town council, we announced that we are having customer appreciation days tomorrow, Friday and Saturday with free admission. I'm happy to see so many members here today, but for those who aren't members or who haven't had the chance to see what everybody's talking about, the Bears, the Heritage Village, the Snowmobile Museum, and the wonderful volunteers and volunteer committee, thank you for coming in and helping out, and all the staff. It's really an opportunity to see, if you haven't already, this amazing resource and the people that work there. So tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday, free admission open to everybody. So look forward to seeing you there.
My name is Jared, and I'm not from Cochrane, Ontario. I'm actually from Southern Ontario. I'm from London, Ontario. I drove a long way to be here today because this is a cause that I find important. And it's just a cause that I care deeply about. I've done care deeply about, and I'd just like to share with you how and why. I'd like to share with you my family's story of basically discovering Cochrane and the wonderful community that Cochrane is. 3 years ago, my wife and I were looking for a place to camp with our son and daughter. We felt, they're almost old enough to camp, and we want to share with them the magic of the outdoors and our respect for the outdoors. And we went online and we found different places to camp. Camping in Southern Ontario isn't anything like camping up here, so I'm sure as everyone can appreciate. And especially my son asking, Jared, everybody just calls me Jared, he calls me Dad, but he says, Dad, will we see bears when we camp? And I said, son, I don't know. I hope probably not, but we might. Anyway, so I continued to search for places to go, and Northern Ontario caught my eye. And for the research, I found the Cochrane polar bear habitat, and went to my wife and I said, I think this is a fantastic place for us to go. So we told her, we told my boy and my daughter, and said, we found a place to camp and we're guaranteed to see bears. And my son asked, oh, Dad, are we going to see black bears? And I said, son, maybe. He says, oh, Dad, grizzly bears? And I said, oh, probably not this time. And he says, well, Dad, what type of bears? And I said, son, we're going to see some polar bears. And he was extremely excited. And anyways, long story short, we came to Cochrane. We camped actually at Kettle Lakes Park. And every day that we were here for about 5 days, we made the trip over to Cochrane to visit the bears. And we spent most of our time not camping, but actually in Cochrane with the bears and the wonderful, beautiful community. So shifting basically from a storytelling perspective to more of a comment, fiscal comment about money and things of that nature. There's something that's really hard to quantify that is, you might see losses at the habitat. and you might see those. But something that's very difficult to quantify when it comes to businesses or the economy is the effect of something like the polar bear habitat on the local community and on those businesses. Families like mine maybe spent $60 on a family membership, but we were spending 4 to 5 days in Cochrane, and while we were here, we were eating at the restaurants. We're going to Subway, we're going to Harvey's, we're going to Swiss Chalet. We're buying food at Valley Mart and shopping at Canadian Tire and things of this nature. We're filling our car up with gas at all the local stations because we did a lot of driving, and also getting the car serviced at some of the service stations. More than I'd like, it is an old car, but anyways, so long story short, something I just like for everyone to consider is something that is difficult to quantify. I'm not sure if there's a way to study that or if there's a way to look into it, but it's definitely something to consider, and that's just that you may see, the losses may be this amount, and they are what they are. But let's also consider that when families come, like my family, we're staying at, if we're not camping, we're staying at beautiful hotels like Swan Castle, and we're shopping at local stores, and we're enjoying, the wonderful community, and we're spending money on things other than just the habitat. So I just wanted to just make sure that everyone, just keep that in mind as well when you make your decisions. And thank you very much for your time.
So what we'll do is we'll take this final comments. We will have another session this evening. So once Joe is done, it's Dennis. Once Dennis is done giving me his opinion, and he's done many times, then I'll just kind of wrap up. Thank you.
My question is, how much it will cost to shut it down?
It's a very good question. I don't have an answer because we're not planning on shutting it down. We're exploring, and if the decision is to shut it down, then we will do certainly a closure plan with all the costs. So to be direct, we don't have a cost at this particular time. So with that, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for coming. It's been quite an informative 2 hours. And I think the objective has been met from our point of view, because we were here to listen, and that's what we've done, and we'll take all that into consideration. And just to remind everybody that you're being filmed, so it'll go up on our website sometime tomorrow. I can't give you a definite time, but if you want to do some reviewing, then you're more than welcome to go to the town website. It'll be there. Just one little quick one. Okay, for you, we'll give you one more little one. No, come, so they can hear you.
Actually, I would like to thank you so much for that press release. There's always a silver lining in a storm cloud. And actually, what you've really done, you brought so much publicity to the polar bear habitat. You can't buy that kind of publicity. So let's get together and get the polar bears.
I don't think that was the objective. As they say, when we went to marketing school, any publicity is good publicity, I suppose. So again, thank you very much, and you're more than welcome to come back this evening.